When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouthwatering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in the film study. And each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I am your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. And I am joined by BGN's own film guru, the world traveler, Jonny Page. Give him a follow on Twitter at JohnnyPage9. Jonny, you're back home. We got your awesome backdrop there behind you for those watching on the video feed. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. I was trying to work out how far away from you was I actually last week. How many miles was it? Do you have any idea?
It was a lot.
Is it still a lot? I was still miles away. Yeah, I said I'd start with a very quick review. So yeah, I wasn't here last week. Thank you for holding down the fort. I did get to the All-22. I just didn't tweet about it, but I did write using your clips, so I stole all of your work last week.
I did see that, and
it was pretty much insane last week. So to give you a little bit of backdrop, I did Ohio State versus Nebraska on Saturday. I was at the Eagles game on Sunday, which I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of how that went. And then I drove to Pittsburgh and watched Pittsburgh versus New York Giants, which was nice watching the Giants lose. I haven't even spoke to you about this off air. So to give you a bit of an idea, I really wanted to do like a proper American thing. So I tried to do nothing touristy, and this is sort of mental, but Saturday morning at Ohio State, we just wandered around like the tailgates and tried to find a few people. And we ended up meeting this like ridiculously cool group of people who just started chatting to us. And they were sort of amazed we were from London. All of a sudden, like shots are coming out, drinks are coming out. We're just being like, I'm playing cornhole with this random guy called like Fetz or something, and he's called Scott. And I'm like, what is going on? Like my brain's a little bit frazzled. And then we sort of realized the game starts in like 20 minutes or half an hour. And we're like, crap, we got to get to the stadium. And then shout out these two absolute legends who I've actually stayed in contact with since, Paulina and Natalie. They were like, oh, you're going to Cincy tomorrow? We're like, yeah. They're like, oh, we're from Cincy. So we end up meeting them Sunday morning as well in Cincinnati, meeting up with all of their friends, drinking before the Eagles game, then going to the Eagles game, then meeting back up with them and all their mates. All their mates were Bengals fans. So that was also good fun because I was like Mr. Unpopular with my Eagles jersey on or Eagles t-shirt on. I didn't go full Eagles because I was like, I'm in a foreign country. Do I want to go full Eagles? I mean, I turned up to the game and everyone's just wearing Eagles green. So I'm starting walking to the stadium and my goal was like, someone's got to recognize me here. Come on, I want to be recognized on the other side of the world. My ego is now fully like going mental. And I walk into the stadium and I should have got his name because this awesome guy just taps me on the shoulder, walks past me and goes, love the podcast. And me in my drunken state was like, wait. I'm running after him, like, and then his wife goes, oh, he actually proper likes the show. Can you get a picture? And I'm like, of course. This is the greatest day of my life. My friends are there going, like, what the hell is going on? Like, we've flown from London to Cincy. Who are you? So we get a little picture. Then we start queuing up to go into the ground. I'm waiting to go into the Cincy ground. And then someone else recognizes me. And he goes, oh, yeah, I've been following you on Twitter. This is cool. And I'm like, this is mental. Like, this is sort of insane. And then after the game, we're back with these group of friends who found everything I said because I'm British funny. Like I used words like mental and massive, and they just cracking up every time I use English terms, which was quite funny. And then Alexis, obviously from BGN, and huge shout out if she's listening. Hopefully she's listening. Massive shout out to Alexis from BGN because she's one of the reasons why we did the trip near Ohio because she lives in Cincinnati. She told me about like it'd be a good stadium to go and see, and she couldn't have been more right because it was awesome. She comes up to me after the game when we're with our group. We take a photo, and then all the people we're with have just seen this random person come up to me and take a photo with me. So they're obviously like, what the hell? Are you like a celebrity? And I'm like, well, no, I'm not. I wish I was. They obviously have no idea that I know Alexis online. So I was just rolling with it. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm sort of a big deal. You know, right? I met another Eagles fan later on who was like, oh, cool, you're in like America watching a game. And I think they think I'm like the biggest tourist ever. So I just casually like throw in there, like, oh, you know, Bleeding Green Nation? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah, I write for them. And he's like, no, you don't. And I'm like, yeah, I do. So obviously in my drunken state, I'm like showing off by this point. My head's fully gone. Like the weekend was unreal. So I'm getting my phone up. I'm showing him who I am. And yeah, it was ridiculous. Like the whole weekend was, the whole trip was good. But that weekend, because of the people we met, what are the odds, Shane, of meeting people tailgating in Ohio at 8 a.m. and spending the entire weekend with them, including going to Cincinnati? We literally met them at Cincy at 10 a.m. They were like, yeah, we live in Cincinnati. They took us to an Ohio, like a frat bar. I'm 30 years old, Shane. I'm in a frat bar. Like everyone's like so much younger than me. I'm like, what is going on? But I lived a proper American experience. I didn't plan like any of it. I just went to the games, and then the people we were with were like, we're going to go here for drinks. I'm like, yeah. We're going to go here for drinks. I'm like, yeah. So shout out to the American people we met. As I mentioned, Natalie and Paulina in particular, absolute legends. It was just a class weekend. And I think I went to like the best Eagles game in a couple of years because the Eagles were awesome as well. Like first drive, I was like, oh, here we go again. Bengals are going to kill us. And then it just got really good. And we were so good live. And to watch like AJ Brown, Hurts, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley in the flesh. Yeah, just a wicked weekend. Like genuinely couldn't have gone better. So enough of my holiday travels, but to the people that did recognize me, I didn't get the other two guys' name, which I'm sad about. Yeah, it is pretty cool flying across the world and people recognizing you. It's even cooler when you're with like two of your mates who are like absolutely hating how happy I am by this, as true friends do. But yeah, what a weekend and what a game. It's a shame I couldn't come here and talk about it because I had loads of takes on the Bengals game. But good news, the Jags game was awesome as well. I've already got a few comments about my accent. The Jaguars, yeah. I just call them the Jaguars. Is that correct? Or what's the American pronunciation of Jaguars? Is it Jaguars or is that the...
I think everybody here just says Jaguars, but I'm pretty sure that's not the... I don't think that's the correct way to pronounce it. That's just what we all say.
I think I'm Jaguars. Yeah, I think I'm the second one, which sounds very British. But there we go. I am British. Deal with it. But yeah, what a weekend. What a weekend. Right. Should we get into the... Should we get into the actual game this week before I go on holiday stories as well? And it was cool watching the New York Giants lose, by the way. That was quite fun.
At the risk of inflating your ego more, when I flew to Philly last year for the Dolphins game, nobody recognized me. So
there you go. But we weren't doing video podcasts then, Shane. That's the thing. It's the video now. It's the face.
That's true.
Yeah, that's what I'm putting it down to. Everyone's hitting the comments with the Jaguar or the Jaguar. Yeah, there we go. I didn't realize how strong my English accent was until every time I said something, some of the people we were with just kept laughing. And I was like, did I say something? And it was just, no, it was just my accent, which apparently in Ohio, you don't get many Londoners go to Ohio State. Yeah. So they found it incredibly amusing. So there you go.
My mother-in-law listens to the podcast, which bless her, because she likes football, but has no idea what we're talking about when we talk. She's like, it sounded good. And she's like, she does not believe that I don't speed your voice up on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
But it's because of the accent. And I was like, actually, when I go back and listen to it, I listen to it at 1.5 speed and I understand it just fine. But
that's outrageous.
I'm one of those psychos.
Yeah, you can see when I'm talking about the holiday, when I get into it and I'm not thinking, that's how quickly I talk. Normally when I'm doing the pod, I'm a little bit slower at times because I'm thinking about what I'm saying. But yeah, me in my natural state, I speak very quickly. I like to say it's because I've got a lot to say, but I don't think that's inherently true. I think I just talk really fast.
When you were in Cincinnati, that's the closest you were to me, and that's still just a little under a 14-hour car drive.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
that's with no stops. It'd take me about 14 hours to drive to Cincinnati. So
mental. Oh, you should have come down. There's no dedication there, Shane. You should have come down for it. Seriously, shout out to the Eagles away fans, man. They were everywhere. They were everywhere. Behind me, row of Eagles fans, there was multiple Fly Eagles Flyers chants. Cincinnati fans were leading into the fourth quarter. Like it was a hell of a game to be there. I celebrated very hard that night. Was very down Monday morning because I was definitely not ready for a 5-hour drive. Luckily, I wasn't driving, or it would have gone horrendously wrong. So I just sat in the front seat and felt sorry for myself until we got to Pittsburgh. But there we go.
All right. Well, if you want to hear more about Jonny's holiday, check out our Patreon and come chat with us in the Discord. We've got lots of conversations and stuff going on there. So patreon.com/ontheshamed page. You can check that out and come hang out. Here's some more stories. We're going to do a Patreon exclusive mailbag later this week. You can get a 1-week trial, so go check that out. But Jonny, let's go ahead and dive into the film here. Last week, I played real fast and loose with the rules. I had 3 offensive points and 5 defensive points. I was like, Johnny's not here. I can do whatever I want to, but we'll fall back into our normal structure this week. 3 points on offense, 3 points on defense apiece. Which side of the ball do you want to go first?
Can we do offense? Because it was the longest game I've ever watched in my life.
Oh my gosh.
It was bad, wasn't it? All-22, you're an All-22 film head when the DMs are like, this film is horrendously long. It's just going on.
It's usually like 60 to 70 plays. And this week, I think it was 98. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't, this is going to take forever. But yeah, let's dive into it.
Just quickly, there's one of the things that I sometimes used to download it. And like I'm not going to be able to get the numbers here. I'm going to butcher this. But like, it was, I don't know if you do use gigabytes in America. I question everything now. So
we do.
I assumed you do. I'm just questioning everything, Shane. Everyone laughs at me for English. So it's not going to load now I'm saying this, but I think the offensive film was like 4 gig plus and the defensive film was like 2.7. Like it was dramatically longer. So yeah, let's start with the offense.
You mean there's not a metric version of gigabytes that you Brits use over there?
No, we actually do use that one. We do use that one.
All right. Let me start us off here. I'll start us off. My first point will be quasi quick. I want to talk about the Eagles using 13 personnel. And I will tip my hat up front and say, I don't like the Eagles using 13 personnel. I'm not going to break down each of these plays. I just want to play them. There's 5 of them on here. 5 times in this game, the Eagles were in short yardage and they got into 13 personnel. Now, they did have a 6th 13 personnel play, and it was the bomb to Devontae Smith. I'm not including that one in this montage or in my stats for 2 reasons. 1, it wasn't short yardage. It was a 1st and 10. And 2, they ran it out of I formation, which is something I think they would have set that up with Ben Van Sumeren. It's just a 13 personnel because he wasn't there. So it's technically, if you go get splits, it'll show up. I'm not counting it because I don't think it was designed to be 13 personnel. They were forced into it. But all that aside, let's look at these plays. And I'll just play them while I talk about it. I just don't like getting into 13 personnel in short yardage situations, especially without Dallas Goedert. I mean, you have EJ Jenkins on the field here, who is a practice squad guy that you've brought up, and you're choosing to get into that on 3rd or 2nd and short. Now, I will say on this play I'm about to show, you can watch EJ Jenkins. He's got a heck of a block, embarrassing a safety here, or maybe that's a cornerback down the field. Just puts him on the ground 12 yards deep. But I just didn't like this. There were 4 run plays. There was 1 pass play. I do want to talk about the pass play. It was the 4th and 1 where they went for it. And I hated this play call as well. It was 4th and inches, just tush push it. And people will say, well, the tush push got stopped. The tush push got stopped on like 2 2-point conversions where you had a full yard. This was inches. Also, the Eagles converted a 3rd and really short on the tush push early in this game. Just don't get too cute. But the reason I wanted to pause and talk about this one is people talked about EJ Jenkins being open, and you can see that he's open off of this play fake right here. I simply don't think he's in the progression at all. Like, this is the sprint rollout to Saquon Barkley that they ran in the Falcons game. Hurts is trying to get out and throw to Saquon. And if you watch, like, by the time you would come off of Saquon, now you would be throwing crossbody while on the move to your 4th string tight end. Like, if he's in the progression, that says a lot more about offensive design than it does about Hurts missing him. So I don't think he's in the progression. I've heard other people say he wasn't in the progression as well, which kind of confirms what I thought. This was just a horrific play call. It doesn't work. And then in all fairness, you do have a 13 personnel run that worked for, I think it was like 15 yards on a 2nd and 2 late in the game. And so, that's the play right here. And Devontae Smith has a heck of a block on that one. So I'll be fair and include that there was 12 or 13 personnel play that worked in short yardage situations, but on a whole, 5 13 personnel plays in this game. They had a 20% success rate. They had negative 1.12 EPA per play out of 13 personnel. They had a positive 0.067 EPA on all other plays. And so massive swing. Like, I know AJ Brown gets out later in the game, but if he's in there, like, you want him and Devontae Smith out wide, stretching the field vertically, make teams think about it. On the season, the Eagles have 10 rushing attempts from 13 personnel for 20 yards. They have a 70% hit at the line rate, which is 4th worst in the NFL. A 30% you got stuffed rate, which is the 8th worst in the NFL. Their EPA per attempt is 9th worst, and their success rate is 2nd worst. I never want to see 13 personnel again.
Yeah, it's a weird one because you sort of need to do it to set up the deep shots without the fullback. So I don't hate it massively, but the plays you mentioned, like I hate just running on short yardage and going 13 personnel because the tight ends aren't any good at run blocking. Even Jack Stoll this year has not really been a great run blocker. Their tight end position just sucks outside of Dallas Goedert, really. And Grant Calcaterra has done a decent job as a receiver, but he can't block. I'm glad
you want to get heavy. If you want to get heavy, just throw out another offensive lineman. Is kind of where I'm at.
That's what I was going to say. You throw Tyler Steen as a 6th offensive lineman, like he's basically he would do a better job than Jack Stoll anyway. And then if you want to get them into heavy, like base personnel, you've probably even got more of a chance if you throw out Tyler Steen on there and catching him in base, and then you can throw it deep. I'm glad you mentioned the 4th down call. We'll get into 4th downs later on because I know you're going to talk about one of the 4th and 3 and Sirianni's decision making. But I'm so glad you said that about the tush push because running the tush push as a 2-yard point or 2-point play, is completely different to running it on 4th and 1 in the middle of the field. If you're running it for an extra point, the defense can literally just fully sell out. Like if you get round them and you run a fake, they'll just accept it. You got 2 points, well done. If you run it in the middle of the field on 4th and 1, they have to respect the edges. They have to respect a play fake. The Eagles have run fakes off it before. There's nowhere near they can play it with the same level of aggressiveness. I just don't think those two things are the same in the slightest. I do like the fact we're starting a game in which the Eagles were really, really good on offense with why they're bad from 13 personnel, which is very niche, Shane. Very niche. So I'm going to give you more of a broader point, which is a bit more vague, shall we say. I'll talk a little bit about Hurts holding on to the ball later and some of the negative stuff I saw, but let's talk about Jalen Hurts in general in this game. I'm not going to do the whole stat stuff. I'm sure anyone who's listening to this has read the stats. What is it? 4 games and no turnovers, X amount of touchdowns, etc., etc. The numbers are all awesome. If you're looking on the pod, you can see them on the board. That sounds very teachery. On the screen. 2nd in EPA per play, 2nd in success rate. The numbers are all good. I don't need to rattle through them. You can see them on the video. You can see them on Twitter. They're just really, really good. And I joked on Twitter, he might go above Derek Carr in some QB rankings this week, Shane. He might crack the top 20. But he's basically solved this huge issue which he had the first half of the season, which is the turnover-worthy plays are not there. And there were a couple of plays that I really, really liked from Jalen Hurts this week. So I'll run through just a couple of them very briefly. First one is the first one on my film thread. Sorry,
by the way, on the Derek Carr point, I don't know if you're aware of this. I dropped this on Chalk Talk earlier this week, but Derek Carr became the first quarterback in NFL history to lose a start against 31 of the other 32 teams. So he has a chance to complete that cycle if he loses to the Raiders in week 17. So just while we're talking about Jalen Hurts being below Derek Carr on certain people's rankings.
Yeah, I haven't checked this week. I don't really want to click on certain people's, aka Stephen Maurice's QB rankings, but not that I name dropped him. If anyone does want to click on his link and let me know if he has managed to jump above superstar Derek Carr, it'd be nice to let me know. I just don't like people who have opinions and don't change them. Basically any statistical metric will tell you Jalen Hurts is at the very least a top 15 quarterback this year. If you want to pick bones about it and say 12, go for it. I'll accept a rational argument, but I'm not accepting 20th behind players that are just nowhere near as good as him this year. Mike got a couple of comments in Mike talking about Hurts speed. I'll talk about that shortly. Yes, I think he has got quicker. And quite a tough one to answer from Breaded Clips about specific scheme changes. Yes and no. I think the scheme is good and that's helping. So think about last year, how many incompletions he had against the blitz. That's obviously going up this year because they're taking short throws. I think he's throwing deeper slightly less in general. He's not just throwing it up into double coverage to AJ Brown or stuff. So I think he's playing just a lot more smart football. Let's go for a couple of clips. Let's go for the first one on my film, Fred, please, Shane, which is the touchdown Saquon Barkley. I like this play because it shows that the Eagles were consistently using motion in this game. This is quite a weird play, and I'd love to speak to the Jags defensive coordinator because I think they played this wrong because they end up with the deep safety taking Jahan Dotson in motion. And that means they don't have a deep safety and they play 2 hole defenders. So if you're watching 2 hole defenders, essentially 2 defenders in the middle of the field which is exactly what you don't want to do against the Eagles because they run no one to the middle of the field and half the time. So those two guys are literally just chilling. I think Saquon Barkley's running an option route here where he has a chance to go in, out, or vertical. I think Hurts is a really, really good decision here, actually, because if you look at the left-hand side, I don't think there's a throw on to the left because the safety's coming down in motion. He ends up getting in Devontae Smith's way. So you can't really throw that ball. It's a very risky ball to throw. You don't really want to throw it to Dotson because he's being covered by a safety. If you want to take the one-on-one to A.J. Brown, you can. But I think he actually realizes that Saquon Barkley is the better matchup here. And this is a really nice throw. And this is also a really, really nice catch. And I think it's just one example of Hurts, one of many examples in this game. I think he made really, really good decisions. There's a couple of other plays that I like, and it wasn't just throwing the ball, it was also scrambling. So I think it is play. Actually, I'll do play 5. I'll do a couple more. Play 5 is one that I really like. Play 5 is the Saquon Barkley play, which everyone has seen 1,000 times by now. So I'm going to just completely ignore the Saquon Barkley doing the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen on a football field, jumping over someone backwards. And like a real scheme there, Shane, I'm going to give credit to Jalen Hurts for this play. Because although I joke sort of laughably, nothing is open here. So Jalen Hurts goes from right to left. The Jaguars end up in a cover 2. They end up that you do not want to throw a slot fade against that. You don't want to throw the comeback. Devontae Smith is open way too late across the middle of the field, and there is a linebacker right in front of him, and that would be a tight throw to make. You also don't have the other hitch, and he ends up throwing the check down. And the important thing here is he throws the check down on time, because if he waits 2 seconds later, the Jags defender in the flat is going to be right on Saquon Barkley. If you look at actually his timing here from this angle, which is really nice as well, you could almost like see him get 1 to 2 to 3 to back and then check down. He's almost running as he catches it. And what that does is that gives him a gap between himself and the first defensive back. So this is something that Jalen Hurts doesn't do that well. He's not the biggest sort of check down guy. He normally prefers to scramble and try to create a play. But this was one of maybe 4 or 5 times where he really nicely got through his progressions. And he's just playing really good football. Like he's looking like a really good quarterback at the moment. And what I really like is the next play. Let's do one final one on Hurts, because I think I could talk about Hurts for a lot in this game. But play 6 is probably my favorite play by Hurts this game. And actually, good timing. Someone on YouTube saying he's been much more decisive in scrambling as well. So I really like this one. The Eagles run this motion, which they did with A.J. Brown all the time in this game, Shane, all the time. It's definitely a new play they've been working on a lot. A.J. Brown runs a crossing route, and he's not open. Devontae Smith's not open. There is basically nothing here for him in 3rd and 6. And I think old Jalen Hurts maybe runs out and backwards and tries to scramble and create something. But he's a freak of a runner, man. And he's not a great extend the play type guy. So just run. Like if nothing's open, either get to your check down or get vertical. There's a lot of quarterbacks that can run, Shane. I think quarterbacks in this league that can bounce off those two and not go down and fall forward for a first down. I think you might be looking at Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Anthony Richardson. And Lamar Jackson is a bit of a different runner. I'm not even sure he's got the power like Jalen Hurts does there to bounce off guys. So I just think, and I got a comment on the BGN article about a month ago, basically saying that I'm too pro Hurts and I need to look at some of the criticism. And I kept saying, I just think he's going to be okay. This is a brand new system and he's getting used to it. Basically, the past month, he's played really good football. He's got used to the system, and I think sky's the limit. I think I don't expect him to have no turnovers ever again, but I think if he keeps playing this well, he's going to end up putting together a really, really strong, 3 quarters to end the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he was really good in this game. There's always going to be a couple plays that don't go the way you would like them to, and there was 2 times that they targeted the middle of the field and the throw was high, and they weren't charted as turnover worthy plays. I don't think I would have put them as that either, but there was a chance a safety could have made a really good play on one and they just didn't. And so, there's the 4th and 3 we'll talk about in a little bit. There's always going to be those things, but I thought this was another really good Hurts game. Not as good as the Bengals game, but not every game is going to be a 98th percentile performance, but he's strung 4 really good games together. And I think it bodes really well for the team moving forward.
Yeah, I could talk about Hurts for a long time on this show, but I think I'll leave it there. There was a lot of good throws I like. Obviously, the Devontae Smith one at the end of the game, And he had a really nice other scramble where he was blitzed from his left, and he let Saquon Barkley pick up the blitz and immediately run. And I think he knew basically that was going to work.
That's the most. That might be the most incredible thing Saquon Barkley did in this game, was picking that up. I'm not joking. Like the backwards hurdle, like that's incredible too. But Saquon Barkley, and I'm going to get into this more on my All-22 Hurts breakdown because it's a pass game play. But Saquon Barkley is responsible for the right edge, and the Eagles should have been hot off the left edge. And because guys drop out, Saquon ends up with not his guy to pick up off of the right. And for him to he scans right to left all the way across the entire offensive line and is able to get over to that free runner and get enough on him to allow Hurts to escape. That was an incredible pass protection rep by Saquon Barkley. Like, I think that's more impressive than the catch. I mean, the hurdle's probably still number one, but
it's definitely the hurdle, Shane. It's the hurdle.
But it's the second most impressive thing he did on the day, I think, over the catch for sure.
Yeah, you know those videos of the Eagles sideline going mental. You need to like edit it so it's the Eagles sideline going mental on Saquon Barkley's block. Yes. If you can do that, I want to see that now. So I want to see all like Reed Bank and shit like turning around like, no, he's made a block. Yeah, that would be that would be cool. Right, we spent too long on our first 2 points. We're 25 minutes in and we've done 2 points. You go next because I think you're going to talk about head coach Nick Sirianni. And decision making, which is something that I don't want to get involved in. I'm openly accepting I'm like a scheme guy and I hate analytics and I don't want to talk about this. So I want to actually know what you think, and then I'll maybe tell you if my very basic brain agrees with you or not.
Okay, so here we go. This is going to be a rarity. I have 0 film clips for this point, but I think it's an important discussion worth having. So there's 3 key 4th down situations in this game. Technically, there's 4 if you count the one where they get the false start lining up for the tush push on 4th and 1. But we'll throw that one out. It does annoy me that you're so obsessed with drawing people off sides that you end up getting a false start penalty. Just run your play. But I'll set that one aside. You get a 4th and 3 at the Jaguars 22 in the second quarter. You're up 10. Surprisingly, to me, analytics say to kick a field goal, and they give it a pretty big margin by +1.5 win probability if you kick the field goal. That's one where I would probably go for it, and I'm going to show this play and talk about it for my 3rd point. But the Eagles go for it. They don't convert. Later in the game, you get a 4th and inches on the Jags 25 with 1:25 left in the 3rd quarter, up 6. So you could kick the field goal and make it a 9-point game. Right? It's a 2-score game. Now, the analytics say to go in that situation. I like that they went in that situation, but we talked about the play call earlier. That cannot be the play call. And then you get to 2:16 left in the 4th quarter. You're up 5. It's 4th and 4 from the Jaguars 39. This is one like if you kick the field goal and miss it, you're giving them the ball near midfield. If you kick the field goal and make it, you're up 8 points. You literally can't lose in regulation. Actually, the analytics say to go for it in that situation by a fairly wide margin instead of attempting the 57-yard field goal. I think that's especially important given the fact that Jake Elliott hasn't touched the field the entire day. He doesn't do the kickoffs. He hasn't attempted he did. Okay, that's not true. He attempted an extra point that they then took off the board. But the reason you could go for that is because the Jags are out of timeouts. If you move the chains, the game is over. And so it's saying like you can risk giving them the ball near midfield to end the game or to make it a 1-score game. And so that's one where you should be going for it as well. You want to get into the 2-point conversions. Taking the 17th point off the board to go for 2 is a bad decision. The difference in being up 17 and being up 18 is negligible. I mean, it amounts to a touchdown field goal doesn't tie the game anymore. The difference in 16 and 17 is really important. It's a 2-possession game versus a 3-possession game. So just because you had a penalty does not mean you should take that point off the board. Chasing the points after it is the right decision. Like the other 2 times he went for 2, that's fine. That's what he should have been doing, trying to push it back out to a 2-score game and then later to a 1-score game. So big picture, aggressiveness is good. Like the Eagles wouldn't have won a Super Bowl in 2017 without it. I mean, can you imagine the discourse if Nick Sirianni ran a reverse pass to his quarterback and it didn't work and it cost you the game? And that's part of the reason that a lot of NFL coaches are not aggressive in that way, because of the backlash if it goes wrong. The Eagles also lost a Super Bowl in part because of a lack of aggression, punting the ball to the Chiefs when you hadn't stopped them in the entire second half instead of going for it. Aggressive coaches are what you want. Aggressive coaches also tend to get overly aggressive. Dan Campbell is a perfect example of this. He went for the 2-point conversion against Dallas last year after a penalty took the correct. I mean, they got a 2-point conversion. The officials botched it, but he was on tilt. He went for 2 anyways from like the 8-yard line, and he doesn't get it. This season, he went for a fake punt on their opening drive against the Vikings on a 4th and 8 from their own 33 that didn't work. So aggressiveness is good. You have to be able to rein that in when it's needed. There were multiple suboptimal decisions made in this game. Nick Sirianni took 4 points off the board in situations where analytics said he should take them. That's massive with a 5-point lead and the ball going into the end zone at the end of the game for the other team. He also attempted a field goal and missed in a situation where analytics said you should go. And so, my opinion, if you are not calling plays, what you exist for on the sideline on Sunday is to manage the game, and you need to be nailing game management every week. And so there's a lot of frustration with that. There's other aspects to being that sort of a head coach, though, like the culture. Nick Sirianni seems to nail that. We saw Doug Peterson stick with his guys when they weren't good, and it got him fired. We're seeing Doug Peterson stick with his guys now in Jacksonville, and it's going to get him fired again. We saw Doug Peterson send out his 3rd-string running back on a 1st and goal at the end of the game and throw a jump ball to it. Like, there were bad decisions made by Doug Peterson in this game. Sirianni brought Fangio and Kellen Moore in, 2 guys that are highly regarded, that are potentially threatening to him, right? He brought those guys in. He falls on the sword for players and coaches. For example, claiming he called a blitz on a key defensive play earlier this year, which clearly didn't happen, right? Taking the fall last year for the interception in Seattle, which was A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts' fault, we found out later. You have the stories coming out about members of the offense going to him about the identity on the bye week, right? Other organizations have players holding out, players throwing teammates under the bus. A couple of weeks ago, Malik Neighbors throwing Daniel Jones under the bus. I was open, watched the tape, right? You have Nick Sirianni fostering an environment where players come to him and he listens. And you can look at, before and after the bye. Look at the pass rates. You have Lane Johnson going and saying, hey, we need to be running the ball more. What happens? They go from an early down pass rate of 51% pre-bye to 39%, and they quadruple their EPA when they do pass. Their pass rate over expectation has dropped from -3 to -13%. On first down, they're running 11% more frequently than expected compared to before the bye. And so he does listen to his players, and that's arguably very important too, but it's harder to see. And so we do need to stop putting every bad thing that happens on Nick Sirianni. I'm going to try to remember that and keep my emotions in check the next time he makes a decision that I think is stupid on game day. Also, let's stop making suboptimal game management decisions. But I think there's 2 aspects of Sirianni's job. One is game management that sometimes he fails at spectacularly. The other is something that people don't normally see. And I think he's very good at that aspect of his job. So I wanted to have a bit of the Nick Sirianni discourse, even though it's not film related. That's kind of where I came down on the game management, but the other things that also go into it as well.
No, that's really good. You should clip that up because I think people would like that online as well. That's a very fair summary. I think the culture is something we ignore. And I think the Eagles culture is really, really good. I'm not going to go into the analytics, but basically my overall take was when you've already got a field goal and the points are already on the board, you never take points off. I just think you basically lose the risk of, because people could miss kicks. Like you can go for an extra point and miss it, but when you've already got it, you've already got it. And as you mentioned, it was going up, 17 compared to 18. That's not worth it. And I'm also going to blame Sirianni for something a bit weird. So Saquon Barkley slid on a 2nd down attempt, wasn't it? 4 yards short of a 1st down, I believe. Now, it's very easy to point the blame at Saquon, and I think Saquon might be rubbish at game management stuff. If I'm honest, he had a couple of howlers, but like, you're the head coach. If you want that team to get a first down, you need to be shouting loudly in people's ears and your coach's ears and your running backs coach ear and your quarterback's ear. Make sure they get the first down. That's sort of your job. Like, whether you like it or not, being a head coach means you take the fall if things go wrong. And Saquon basically admitted that he slid, which tells me that the running backs coach, and you've got to remember, players haven't got time to look at the scoreboards. They're not running analytics in their head. He obviously thought it was the right thing to go down. I'm sure in hindsight, he knows it wasn't. But someone's got to be telling him that. That's your job. You need to get on your running backs coach, to get on Saquon Barkley, to make sure to tell him, I want you to do everything you can to get even if you get out of bounds, get the first down if you go out of bounds, because getting a new set of downs is the priority there. Like, you don't want to go out of bounds, but I'm saying that, like, as a head coach, your job is to make sure that everyone is singing from the same hymn sheet. And they weren't. They weren't aligned in what they wanted to do there. And I sort of hate this because I want an aggressive head coach. And by the way, I've always said the same about quarterback. I want aggressive quarterbacks. I want aggressive head coaches. I want aggressive play callers. However, you cannot just justify every single decision by saying, we're being aggressive. Because if you're being aggressive, you don't run the ball on 3rd and 4 and try and kick a 57-yard field goal and fall from 3. That's not aggressive. Aggressive would be passing on 3rd down or passing on 4th down and trying to get a first down and end the game. So I think when you can't just excuse things by saying, but it's aggressive, because anyone can say that. I would say the other end of the stick is Todd Bowles on Monday Night Football, equaling the game with 20 seconds left or whatever and having a chance to score a 2-point conversion to beat the Chiefs and not going for it and not seeing the ball again. I want aggressive coaches. I will struggle to criticize coaches for not being aggressive, but I don't think that's just an excuse to say, right, well, we can't criticize you because very simply you're being aggressive and I've always been aggressive and therefore there's nothing like you can criticize me about. I think it's sort of it's a fine line. You've got to be a little bit careful. But I think the other stuff you said about the positives about Sirianni is very true, basically.
There's a fine line between aggressive and reckless. And if you're just like always on the reckless side, that's one thing, but he's not. Like, sometimes he's further on that conservative side than you would expect. It seems to oscillate from decision to decision, which is what's puzzling to me. It's hard for me to understand why he kind of waffles back and forth across that line like he does.
Yeah, that's very fair. Let's get back into what we often do. Let's get back into the film. But it's a good point. I think the film stuff is obviously important, but you win and lose games by coaches' decision-making. And I know you're very in tune with the analytics and what things say, unlike me. So it's good to hear. And I sort of agreed with your take anyway. I think analytically, maybe I line up more than I realized. I'm going to talk about the classic thing that I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about the run game. Eagles' run game was unbelievable in this, Shane. Like, I put this in the article that I've written for BGN this week. Like, outside zone, inside zone, counter. They did run tackle trap. They got Dart back in there this week. Not tackle trap, tackle power. They got Dart back in there. Gap scheme, zone scheme, under center, shotgun, pistol. Like, they can do it all. They can do it all. The only thing I worry about is that Saquon's too good and his workload is getting too high. And I'm not been very impressed with any of the Eagles' backups so far, although we haven't seen Shipley much. I won't go into huge amounts of detail on the run game, but I'll show a couple of plays. Hurts had a couple of nice runs. First one I want to show is clip 4 of my film thread. This is just a very standard inside zone from the pistol. They're just getting downhill quickly. A couple of things I really like about this play is, number one, the threat of Jalen Hurts, which is why the pistol is awesome, because the Jaguars edge defender just doesn't even bother going for Saquon. And this is a theme every single week. And those that worry about Jalen Hurts' mobility, just don't worry about it, because as long as teams still respect it, it matters. And by the way, he still runs well. The blocking up front, Shane, the offensive line, I think like you, I've been calling for Tyler Steen to start. Kai Becton moved guys. Cam Jurgens is awesome every single week. Like, every single week he's good. Landon Dickerson's back to his best. I thought Fred Johnson was fine in the run game. Lane Johnson, that's a really, really good block to get the other side of 51. The amount of times I'm just watching the run plan going, yeah, they're blocking this well. Yeah, they're blocking this well. And yeah, you've highlighted on the screen, this is a really difficult block by Lane Johnson. There was this play from the pistol. Then there was probably my favorite run of the whole game, not QB counter bash. I'll come to that in a second. But play 13. this was very, very nearly another huge run. Like Saquon nearly went over 200, Shane. He very, very nearly breaks this one. The reason why I love this play is it's under center outside zone. And a couple of things they do. Firstly, they use the jet motion from the wide receiver, which is good sequencing because earlier on they handed it to Anaya Smith. I must admit, I was going a little bit mental. People saying, why are they handing it on a jet sweep to Anaya Smith? It's not about that play. It's about sequencing things later on. Whether that play was a success or not is almost irrelevant. The other thing I love is we mentioned earlier on about how the tight ends can't block. So the tight ends can't block, Shane. Just what you do, just don't use them. Just make them run away. But they basically look like they're going to block for the jet motion. So the Jags have to have 2 defenders run with them. So you basically get loads of movement, and then you just get like everyone blocking well. Becton and Juergens just moving guys. Lane Johnson sealing the edge. Dickerson, Fred Johnson, even Devontae Smith with an awesome block down the field. This is so nearly a big play. And it's actually a really, really good play by the Jag safety to tackle Saquon. This is nearly a massive, massive run for the Eagles. Their run game has had so many explosive plays. It's just an incredibly talented offensive line. They're down Jordan Mailata. They're not playing Tyler Steen, and they're still really good. And a lot of teams can't play 3 or 4 good offensive linemen, let alone having 5 good when you've got your best left tackle out as well. And then the final running play I've got to run with is the Eagles ran this twice in this game. QB counter bash, which I do have on my film thread, play 9. It was Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown. If you think about counter, so this is GT counter. So counter means GT counter, very simply means the guard and the tackle are pulling. And bash means that the running back is running away from the play or the way the play is designed. I love this because they have Kenny Gainwell lined up outside, and then he uses like a jet motion to come across. We've had lots of discussions offline about whether Jalen Hurts is reading the edge defender here. I think he is, but it's hard to tell exactly. But this has always been my favorite run because the Eagles just run it incredibly well. I think the reason why they don't run it that often is simply because it means Jalen Hurts is running directly. Sort of he's the priority runner here, and it's not always something you want to do. But this is blocked as well as it can be. Like you get the guard and the tackle, which is why I called it GT counter bash. The bash is the running back running away. They actually block this so well that the hole is absolutely massive. I've mentioned this before in articles, but the Jags come out of a 5-man front here. Now, 5-man fronts have been a big thing in the league the past couple of years because 5-man fronts are brilliant at stopping the outside zone wave that we saw. The reason why is because the whole point of the zone running game is you want your offensive linemen to get to the second level. You don't need them to get to the second level as much when it's part of a 5-man front, which is why gap scheme is better. So I often think you want to run gap scheme again. This is very simplistic, but gap scheme, counter, power against 5-man runs. And then when you get a 4-man front, you run things like inside zone and outside zone. But they can't block this any better. Like 74, Fred Johnson is basically not needed on the play. He's like a spare part. You don't even need him to run this play correctly. You also notice how the bash completely takes out the linebacker. So if you watch this play again, Shane, just look at the middle linebacker. Like he completely goes with Kenny Gainwell on this play. So you take out the edge and you take out the linebacker, which means you've only got 4 guys to block. Like this is as good as it gets. The only problem is there's a horrendous cheap shot by the Jag safety, which nearly ruins the play at the end. But Eagles' run game is exceptionally good. They finally committed to the run, but it's not just Saquon Barkley, it's the QB runs as well. As I mentioned, we saw a good variety of runs in this game. We saw runs from shotgun, under center, pistol. The Eagles' run game is very, very special. And it's a huge reason why the offense has turned around over the second half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. You cover. I leave the run game stuff to you most of the time, but
love the run game.
Yeah, I know you do, and fans might have been a little disappointed. We didn't talk enough run game last week because you were gone, but you're back, so we get our run game breakdown this week for sure.
Right, we are 43 minutes in, Shane, and we've done 4 points. So Let's do our third one nice and quickly. I know yours is a play, and mine's only a couple of plays as well, and then we'll get on to the defense.
Yeah, so let's go to the 4th and 3 that I mentioned earlier where the Eagles went for it. The analytics would say kick, which surprises me, honestly. I would think that they would favor going for it here, but whatever. The Eagles go for it. I love the motion they get. So they've got like a stack with Jahan Dotson and Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown is out wide, and they motion him in, and they're going to snap him between Devontae Smith and Jahan Dotson on this play. Now, The first thing I want you to notice, I'm just going to roll it, is the snap comes too early. The timing is off. This isn't something they've done a lot. They're going to have to work on it. But look where A.J. Brown is when the snap happens, and watch, see, he's not even to it yet. And watch how this delays Devontae Smith's release. The ball is in Hurts' hand. Devontae Smith has to have this shuffle where he can't get into his route. This is important because I'm pretty sure the first read on this play is Devontae Smith breaking out. We can watch from the back view. You can tell me if you agree, but I think the primary read on this play is Devontae Smith. I think they want him breaking out against this corner that's coming inside. I think that's what they want. And because that's messed up, he's then going to come to A.J. Brown on the crossing route. And so we'll run this through. You just watch. You guys at home watch. Tell me what you think. But I think Devontae Smith is who they want. Devontae Smith would have been open for the first down, but the timing is just messed up, and Hurts has to come off of it.
Sorry, Shane, can I just say quickly as well, for the QB screenshots guy, this is why I never screenshot plays, because it has to line up with your footwork. It has to line up with your eyes. If you go back just ever so slightly, Jalen Hurts' footwork and his eyes are ready to throw to Devontae Smith there. And there's anticipation, but that's too much. He's nowhere near ready. And if you watch the second, then he has to immediately get his head back to A.J. Brown. So Devontae Smith might be open, and there was another play later on actually on this game where you could argue A.J. Brown was open, but it didn't matter because he got pressed at the line of scrimmage, and that meant that Hurts has already gone off him. So I actually didn't notice that, so that's a really good shout. They definitely snapped the ball too early.
Yes.
And yeah, I didn't notice it, so that's a really good call.
What's funny watching this, because when I tweet All-22 stuff, I'm like, when I see a clip, I record it and tweet it, and so I haven't watched the whole game yet. I saw them do this motion earlier, and all of the routes broke, or Devontae Smith's route broke in too. And I was like, I like this concept, but I want Devontae Smith breaking out because he's going to out leverage this guy. And then the fourth down play, it's exactly what I was thinking as I watched the first time, and it's open. The timing was just off because of the snap. But so he gets to A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown, I mean, hey, having A.J. Brown as your second option is always a nice thing. And A.J. Brown's going to get separation on this crossing route. The problem is, he's open right now, right? He's got a step. He's running to the sideline. I don't know what happens here. It looks like A.J. Brown tries to get upfield, and Jalen Hurts tries to throw him more to the sideline. I'm not going to take a stand and tell you this is A.J. Brown's fault. He should have got to the sideline. I'm not going to tell you Jalen Hurts underthrew this football because I don't know how they teach this play. I don't know what the landmark is. Maybe they're both right and Hurts just underthrows it because his footwork's definitely off. He's falling away from it. I don't know. It could be an underthrow. One of these guys could be wrong on their landmark, but A.J. Brown starts to drift upfield. Then he has to come back to it. It allows them to come back and break up this pass. This is one of those where, analytics say kick. I'm fine with going here. And you've got a play drawn up that should work two different ways. And it's just little things in execution that make that off. But we've seen the Eagles fleshing out some of these concepts. Last week I talked about the jet motion and how they were setting up jet sweeps. And then they did it this week. Sometimes it's a work in progress. We saw that motion through into a bunch, I think twice this game. I think we're going to see it more down the stretch. So keep an eye out for it. I think it's a great concept.
I think this was the best sequencing we've seen from Kellen Moore. They had a really nice third down play earlier on where A.J. Brown did the same motion and broke, he looked like he was going to go across the middle, and then he broke to the out side, and then they ran this later on. One thing I like about us in general, since we've started doing this, and sort of the way we try to be since we did it, is we're not trying to tell people what we know because we don't know everything. I don't know what's meant to happen on that play. Historically, I would say A.J. Brown's at fault, because I think receivers are often told or taught to cross the face of the NFL cornerback, so the defensive back can't jump the route. However, A.J. Brown looks like he's drifting towards the end zone, and if they're told, if there's no one there, drift towards the end zone and go for the touchdown rather than just get the first down, it's really hard to know. I think Jalen Hurts' footwork's bad, and he underthrows it. I think that's basically a guarantee, but I don't actually know exactly who is at fault there, but I think it's either a miscommunication or somebody is at fault. I'm also fine going with it, and I think the play call is really good as well. Right, I'm going to finish up very, very, very quickly. Speaking of QB screenshots, this is where the All-22 matters. So watching live, my third point is going to be about Jalen Hurts holding the ball. My gut told me that Hurts held the ball too much and he was too slow to get through his reads. After watching the game, I think I've changed my mind. And I don't know if you feel similarly, but I don't think any of Jalen Hurts' 3 sacks are his fault. And I think sacks are definitely a QB stat. So I'll show you, I'm not going to show you all 3, but I'll show you the first one because it's very emblematic of the other ones. So it's clip 2 on my film fridge. You've already got it up. Firstly, this is why screenshot Twitter is wrong. So Kellen Moore just seems to run 5 hitches like once a game or twice a game. I don't get it, Shane. He's such a good offensive coordinator. He's so creative. But like 3 or 4 times every game, he'll just run this play and it never works. But I'm guessing they partly do it to maybe keep the defense honest. And like later on, it means they can throw something deeper. I wonder if it's setting up something. AJ Brown is open if you pause it when he cuts back to the football. So you think, Jalen Hurts should have thrown it. Well, no, because when Jalen Hurts looks at him, he's being pressed. It's too late. By the time AJ Brown's actually come open, look at Jalen Hurts' eyes. Look at when Jalen Hurts looks to him. It's annoying timing, and you could argue he could stay on it a little bit longer, but then you could also argue that Hurts is too slow at getting through his progressions. So you can't have it both ways. If he just stands and stares at AJ Brown, then we all go, well, why are you staring at AJ Brown? But basically, no one's open. And he ends up taking the sack because there's nothing he can do here. Like, you can't moan at the guy for holding the football. There is simply nothing he can do. Nobody is open. There was another sack on 3rd and 6 when they were in field goal range that I tweeted this out, but nobody was open. He wanted to throw the out to Devontae Smith. He got all the way back to his other side progression. Dotson ran a horrendous backside route, if I'm honest with you. I don't know if you saw that play, but Dotson didn't get open. Mm-hmm. And then later on 3rd and 6, there was a similar one. He wanted to go to AJ Brown. He wanted to go to Devontae Smith. Neither of them were open because the Jags played trap coverage, so he couldn't throw the out. Trap coverage meaning it looked like Devontae Smith should be open on the out, but the outside cornerback didn't run with a vertical. He sat in the short zone, so you see a lot of pick sixes like this. And then there was a Jag stunt that won, and he couldn't get rid of the ball. So I actually didn't have a problem with Hurts holding on to the ball too much in this game. I think actually he got rid of the ball and got through his progressions pretty well. So this is something where I think it's easy to blame Hurts when you're watching live, but this is why the All-22 matters. And I don't believe he was at fault for holding the ball. We just got a comment on YouTube mentioning that the QB school, JT O'Sullivan, also flames the Eagles for running Hank all the time. I know he's got a video on Hurts coming out after this podcast, and I'm looking forward to watching it, see if he agrees with us. I'm pretty sure he's going to moan about those play calls as well. But I also think he's going to like some of the cool stuff that Kellen Moore does. So there you go. I think sometimes you need to deal with 22 and you can't just go off what you see on the TV copy, especially this week, because they showed no replays of like anything. So I had no idea what was going on in the secondary this week.
I'm going to show one more. And when I tweeted this clip, when I tweeted this one out earlier on Twitter, I said, this is the quote, "Hey, everybody run 5 yards, turn around and watch the quarterback bail out my dumb play call concept." You get 3 to 4 times a week. It's like, where's Hurts supposed to go with this? And he ends up scrambling and he gets some yardage. But man, yeah, I hate that concept so much. JT O'Sullivan hates that concept. I was watching one of his Joe Burrow video, and when he talked about the Cincinnati Bengals running Hank, he said, "I hate this play, but this is perfect. If you're going to run Hank, which you shouldn't, but if you're going to, it has to be like this." And he's talking about how Joe Burrow throws with so much anticipation and gets through those reads. But yeah, I hate it. And I'm totally with you. Just flush that from the playbook.
Yeah, right. Let's go into the defense, Shane, because we got some people and some plays to talk about. Right. I'm going to tell you to start because you are talking about a man that I desperately want to talk about, but I'm going to let you go through the film and I'm just going to sing good stuff about Zack Baun. Zack Baun, man, like best linebacker in the league right now, genuinely. And I'm not kidding. I mean, forget Pro Bowl, like all pro first team, whatever. Like he is as good as it gets right now. So talk to me about what you saw from this performance, because I am a little bit blown away by how good he was in this game.
So I want to give some context statistically before I show plays. This is his, not that I'm endorsing PFF grades, okay, but this is his second straight game with an over 90 PFF grade, which is elite production. He had 7 of the Eagles' 17 defensive stops in this game, which is tackles that generate negative EPA for the offense. He has 79 tackles this season, which is 11th in the NFL, and he only has a 6% missed tackle rate. And what's wild, Cody Alexander put out his Havoc ratings, which it's kind of like a better PFF grade. He's top of the league in that. What's insane is he's doing this playing a position he's never played before. He is a true off-ball linebacker. He already has more coverage snaps this year than the first 4 years of his career combined. Last year for the Saints, he was in coverage on 30% of his snaps. He has been in coverage on 83% of his snaps for the Eagles this year. And he looks like he's been doing it for a decade. It is insane what Vic Fangio has been able to get out of him. And Cody Alec, which great follow on Twitter at @the_coach_A, match quarters, great stuff. But he was talking about how Vic Fangio had Andrew Van Ginkel last year and was like, wanted Baun for that role this year, but it's not even the same role. Like, it's insane. And so just some of the plays that he made in this game, like it was literally, I think, the first defensive play of the game. I'm going to circle him on the screen. This is cover 3 match. One thing Fangio likes to do in cover 3 match is have his safety play the running back fast to the flat. Now, it's not a running back here. It's a tight end coming across in motion, but you'll notice Reed Blankenship dives on this. That now means that Zack Baun is responsible for carrying the number 2 receiver vertically. And there's a play fake. He's we get a back pedal and we get a flipping of his hips like a cornerback would do. How many times do you see a running back or a linebacker go from back pedal to flip his hips and make a jumping pass breakup downfield? Like, that's an absurd play. Cornerbacks making that play, you get applauded. The back pedal, flip your hips, that's tough to do at times. It's just such a good play. And I'll show this one from the back view to show just the play he makes on the ball. It's so good. And he does it despite the fact he was faced with play action. Like, he's supposed to be responsible for a run gap, and he doesn't bite at all. On the next play here, he's going to get the run stop, and he actually plays 2 gaps. And so he's responsible for this gap right here, which is where the running back's trying to go. He's got this gap on lockdown. You've got Reed Blankenship coming for the cutback lane. He plays both gaps. He reads the cutback. He sticks his foot in the ground. He gets to the other hole, which is great because Reed Blankenship gets blocked, and he wraps up and makes the tackle. Like, the Eagles have not had a linebacker that can do this that I remember watching. It's incredible what he's doing on this play. I'll circle him. That's not him. I'll circle him right here. Too many white guys on the field. It's getting confusing now for the Eagles, but so Zack Baun, I'll circle him. He does a really good job. He sinks under the throwing window for Brian Thomas, who's wide receiver 1. Everybody else is hurt. He sinks into this throwing window right under that slant, and then he gets out to the flat and he tackles the running back for basically no yardage after the catch. Again, it's a really good play. I'll show this one from the back view again, just to show how he breaks down and makes the tackle. But this is Travis Etienne. This is a good running back. He's a good pass catcher. And Baun just gives him nothing. Like, that's your dream. The Eagles' dream is to get Saquon Barkley one-on-one with a safety or a linebacker in the flat. Zack Baun just erases that. The next play here is the interception, which, he's right place, right time, but it's tremendous awareness and athleticism to be able to secure that catch and keep it off the ground. Show it from the back view again, just so you can kind of see the catch, which, the broadcast has really good angles of the catch. You don't need me to tell you it's impressive, but that's a really good catch. Hook him up with Quinyon Mitchell, let him work with Quinyon on catching, but here's another one where he's going to trigger downhill quickly and he avoids the blocker. Jalen Carter does a good job of drawing this double team, and he gives Baun just enough time to get to the hole, and he's going to get skinny and make this tackle, ducks that shoulder, tackle for loss. That's great. And then this last one, you see how good he's playing alongside Nakobe Dean. This is cover 3 match. It looks weird because of some caveats I won't go into too much here. But if you look at Brian Thomas and Quinyon Mitchell at the bottom of the screen, this looks like man coverage. Trevor Lawrence thinks he's catching man coverage here, and they've got mesh dialed up. And look at the way that the 2 linebackers just pass off this mesh concept. and Trevor Lawrence has nowhere to go, and he gets sacked. And I'll show this one from the back view too, and then I'll stop talking about him. But like you can almost feel Lawrence be like, oh, I have the mesh. Oh crap, it's not there. And Josh Sweat's in my face. Zack Baun, man, is playing incredible football. And he was our Patreon community spotlight this week. I could say equally glowing things about Nakobe Dean. He didn't light up the box score as much this week as Zack Baun, but those two linebackers are playing at an elite level right now next to one another.
Yeah, Shane, that first play, the first play of the game on defense, when he covers the route to the corner, is utterly absurd. Like, Fred Warner makes his play. And by the way, Fred Warner was second in Cody Alexander's Havoc rating. Zack Baun, as you mentioned, is first. This is a joke of a play. Like, if a slot cornerback does this, if this is Cooper DeJean, we say that's a great play. This is a linebacker
that played edge rusher last year.
He's an edge rusher in college. We haven't even really seen him blitz. Yeah, loads of comments coming in just like, we have to sign him. Like, I don't know. If they don't sign him, I'm fuming. I don't care if you don't play linebackers. You don't let one get away when they're this good. It's not a fluke. It's not 1 week. He is utterly, utterly ridiculous right now. Like, the guy's balling out, and it's everything. It's not just coverage. It's run fits. It's coverage in the flat. A couple of weeks ago, Shane, I highlighted he chased a receiver vertically down the field as well. Like, he doesn't miss tackles. We haven't even seen the pass rushing side of him yet, and I think he can do that more. I think you could even line him up at edge. He's done it in college. Like, there's so many things you can do with him. I don't know. I don't care if maybe the worry is that the coordinators change and Fangio's not there. If Sirianni goes, who knows what will happen? But I don't know.
The only way the coordinator changes. The only way the coordinator changes is if Fangio retires, because he's not getting another head coach shot, and I don't think he wants one, to be honest. So, yeah,
unless a new head coach comes in and wants to bring his own guy, and that's the only thing. But yeah, he's like superstar Zack Baun, as good as it gets. I could have gone on for ages about him, but yeah, pay him, get it done as quick as you can because the money is going up. It's not a fluke. It's not 2 weeks now. He's been this good all year. He had one bad game against Falcons when they ran a cut block on him, and he was like, what do I do? I've never done this in my life. And since then, absolutely fine. Right, speaking of superstars, I'm going to get to my second point. Another superstar, Shane, the Eagles have is Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is a total freak. Like, we said it in the offseason. I said he had Defensive Player of the Year talent. I still think he does. I didn't even notice how good he was this game. And when I'm watching the film back, and I'm like, 1, he's doubled all the time. And 2, he's everywhere. He moves like no defensive tackle I've ever seen. If played for the Eagles, like, over goodness knows how long. Fletcher Cox at his peak was unbelievable. Fletcher Cox didn't move like Jalen Carter did. Like, not athletically move like he did. Some of the plays he made this game are ridiculous. My favorite one is probably one of the ones he did against the run. So number 5 is probably my favorite play from my film, Fred. This is actually a run stop play, and then I'll show a pass rush as well, just to show you sort of what he's like. This run play, like, he's one-on-one with a guard, and or center even, in fact. And this is perfect, by the way, gap and a half. And the reason why I like showing this is Fangio to a T. So this is how they teach it. If you look at Jalen Carter for a second there, sorry, Shane, we lost a clip, by the way, if you're watching it. So he looks like he's taking the inside of the center. So he gets his head around. So the running back sees that his head is poking towards the inside gap. And then the second, like, that is textbook. That is literally textbook. Running back sees his head. And then the second the running back, that's mine. Like, the strength of the guy is absurd. Like, he just looks and moves so well. And then there's another play that I love from him as a pass rusher. And by the way, he did this like multiple times. This was not the only time against the run he did this. There was multiple plays. But the other one I really like is play 9 on my film, Fred, which I might end up showing actually again later on, talking about defensive backs. But they end up playing quarter half, which I'm going to talk about later on. And Jalen Carter just like ruins the offensive lineman. And I love the behind the other end angle for this, because look how athletic he is when he chases down Trevor Lawrence. Like, Trevor Lawrence tries to run away. He looks like an edge rusher. He doesn't look like a defensive tackle. And he's like 320 pounds or something ridiculous. Like, you don't move like this. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, the SWAT is ridiculous. The guy is on his knees. The guy's on his knees trying to block him. And then he chases him down like an edge rusher. Like, I don't know. There was a lot of concerns when he fell because of his off-the-field stuff. We haven't really seen it. Like, I think when he's not playing very well, I think he gets a little bit in his head and he moans. He's 323 pounds at the combine. He's a physical freak. He's great against the run. He's being double teamed against the pass, and he's still disrupting plays. He's good. I said in the article this week, he's going to be a superstar. I sort of backtracked on myself and said, he might already be a superstar. Like, he might not have national recognition because the sack numbers aren't there, but he is already playing at an absolutely elite level. Like, Josh Sweat's got more sacks than him of late, but he's not rushing the passer anywhere near as good. It's just Jalen Carter basically isn't getting the one-on-ones. He's being doubled all the time. The Eagles' edge rushers aren't brilliant, and because the edge rushers aren't brilliant, teams are basically just double teaming him. So I think he's only got about 3 or so sacks this year, but don't let the stats take away from how good he is. He's a star, and I think he's only getting better and better and better.
He's been double teamed on 67% of his pass rushing reps this year.
There you go.
That's
that's opposite Jordan Davis as well, who should be taking a double.
Yeah, that's per ESPN stats. Per my charting, he's been held on like 89% of his pass rush reps, but like I've just totally made that up. But I said earlier that I said on Twitter earlier this week that, like, watching the film, like, eventually an NFL official will throw a holding flag on an offensive lineman that's blocking Jalen Carter. And when it happens, Philly better have the light poles greased, because the city's going to go insane. But
yeah, he's held a lot. Right, we need to speed things up, Shane. We're now 5 in. Finish this off, and then we'll do our points.
Yeah, he tied career high marks in total pressures with 6, pressures against double teams with 3 against the Jags. And 5 of those pressures came against Brandon Sheriff, who had not allowed more than 4 pressures to a single player in any game in the past 7 years. So heck of a game against a good offensive guard from Jalen Carter.
And I don't even think people mentioned it. That's why it wasn't like something on Twitter. People, Carter's awesome. That's why I think he's so good. We've got used to greatness. That's when you know a player's good. Right. Talk me through your second point. Are you doing Fangio? And then
yes,
we'll end with a little bit of negativity on your part, which is good. Who doesn't want to end with a little bit of shots fired? Talk about Fangio on the last drive, because this was funny.
Yeah, we figured out that Fangio went on full tilt in this game. Before the final drive, there was one play where the Eagles sent 5 rushers at the quarterback. That's if you exclude like the 4th and 1 that Cooper DeJean broke up that everybody thought was going to be a QB sneak. And if you exclude a 3rd and 1 under center play action that everybody thought was a run as well. So if you take those out, because you got guys getting caught up in play action and expecting a run, actually just blitzing. He blitzed 1 time before the final drive. On the final 6 plays, the last drive, he blitzed 4 out of 6 plays. And I'm going to play him. I'm not going to like break down these plays. I just wanted you to see him as I talk. But like, this was Vic Fangio in like, Eagles fans were mad at Nick Sirianni on Sunday. I think Vic Fangio might've been the maddest at Nick Sirianni. Like, this is straight up, screw it. I'm pissed. This game should have been over 3 times. You don't have any wide receivers right now. I don't respect you at all. We're playing cover 1 and we're blitzing every single play. And it was kind of funny to watch. Just like, it's very rare that you see somebody just like flip a switch and it's like, okay, we're playing an entirely different defense. We're no longer split field safeties. We're not matching coverage. We're just pinning our ears back and coming after the quarterback. And I just thought that was funny to see. I feel like, as angry as Eagles fans were with how that game was going, I almost feel like Vic Fangio was angrier. And so I just wanted to shout that out because I thought it was funny and show the clips, but very abnormal from Vic Fangio there.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I noticed it live as well. I think I tweeted it live, and something like Fangio's just lost his head. Like, it was quite funny. The man clearly was just like, screw this. How the hell are we still playing this game?
Either that or Nick Sirianni started calling blitzes again.
There we go. Start the conspiracy. Nick Sirianni took over. Reddit Lip saying that he wanted to go to bed by that point. A little bit harsh. Fangio's got something left. But yeah, that was slightly like old man yells at cloud like meme. It was just like, screw this. And then another comment saying GGN 10. They weren't very successful actually. I don't think anyone ever got home. We would have been better off playing a little bit more.
I mean, to be fair,
coverage, but.
To be fair, they got to 3rd and 10, and then you got the Avonte Maddox DPI. So You could
Poor
the
Maddox,
first
man.
two worked, and we don't need to
Poor
talk
Maddox,
about Maddox, but yeah.
Oh, one snap, one DPI. Yeah, it's harsh. Right, I'm going to take my other point, which is going to be about the young defensive backs. So I sort of wanted to talk about a few players, and I'll try and get through this quickly. Quinion Mitchell is ridiculously good for a rookie cornerback. Cooper DeJean is ridiculously good for a rookie cornerback. And there's a couple of plays that I really like because you can see them both being really good on the same play. So I'll start with play 6. I'll just show you one play because I could show like loads and loads and loads. This is my favorite one by a mile because it just shows both of them off really well. So Cooper and Quinion are next to each other, which also helps. Quinion Mitchell, man, he just locks players down. Like, he doesn't get beat and he's a rookie cornerback. So you watch him here on the outside. I can't remember who he's up against here. But he ends up like switching because of the motion, and he's just all over this. Like, you know, someone's good when they don't break a sweat. It looks easy. Just look at Quinion Mitchell's body language here for a cornerback. Like, this is a vertical route. There's nothing there. Like, this guy's not challenging him. It's almost like, what are you doing? And I love this play from Cooper DeJean because the big problem with Cooper DeJean coming out was hip fluidity. Can he turn his hips and can he run? Which is why people worried about him in the nickel. Well, look at this, man. This is a nice route. It's running across the formation. When he breaks out, Cooper DeJean flips his hips. A better receiver might catch this. You know, like a really good receiver might pull this in. It's catchable. But I don't mind if he gives up plays like this. He's there. He flips his hips well. He gets a little bit of contact, and his press coverage was really good in this game. And when he flies downhill and the burst, the click and close speed, the timing of the hit is awesome. I put young DBs, though, Shane. I didn't put rookie cornerbacks because I felt like it was a little bit unfair. Seeing as I know you're going to go after one of the Eagles' defensive backs in this game, if I didn't give a tiny bit of a shout out as well to Reed Blankenship. I think Reed Blankenship had a really, really good game. I think coming downhill, he had a really good game. So I thought I would throw one play in there as well with Reed Blankenship coming downhill, which is play 8 on my film thread. When you play in a Fangio-style defense, you are going to play too high a lot, and you're going to need your safeties to be able to do this. The other safety can't do it, and you'll talk about him in a minute. This is just a really, really good play. Like, his tackling technique is really good. His timing of when to come downhill is perfect. I love this angle because you see how quickly they rotate from too high to single high. I just wanted to shout out all three of them. Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are playing better than I ever could have imagined, even though I liked both of them. But I think it's easy to forget about Blankenship. I think he's just a very solid starter. He does his job. He doesn't screw up. He doesn't get beat very often. He's not the most versatile, but he is just a good defensive back, and you can do a lot worse. And I think he's a really good scheme fit. Should we now talk about a defensive back who is not very good? I'm going to end with your final point, Shane. Now I've got all positive, and I'll go positive at the end as well for my final point. But I'm glad you brought him up because I was going to bring him up if you didn't. Talk to me about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. It's not good. It's not very good.
It's so bad. I want everyone to just remember, if you're watching, if not, you can check out our film threads if you're listening on podcasting platforms. But I want you to keep in mind how Cooper DeJean played that out route, because we're going to get there with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I'll probably just show them both since you brought it up. But I want to show a couple of plays from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. This first one, I don't really think is his fault. You get a man indicator when he comes across the formation. The Jags have a pretty good little concept on here. They've got a slant route that kind of runs into Chauncey Gardner-Johnson with like a wheel route. And so you get a rub concept here. But I also just like, he also gets run into by the cornerback. Like, there's contact made there that pushes him even further upfield. And so this is a pretty good schemed up play by the Jags, I thought. You could argue that, like, you would really like him at this point. He's past everything to really drive on this receiver, and he rounds that out. So he could have done better, but that's a tough one. On this 2-point conversion play, I put this in here because I tagged the clip with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's name when I was watching it, but really, this is just an insane throw by Trevor Lawrence. And so you're going to get, this is a 2-point conversion play. You get like a little hitch, and then you get a kind of a wheel behind it. So it's the same sort of rub concept. This is just a dot. I mean, watch when Wilson, or when he separates to throw this ball, he's throwing right here. Like, look at that cut. This is just absurd. I would be pissed if I was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but at the same time, look at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He gets his hands on him here. He's clearly running upfield, and he loses that step, and he just doesn't contest it well at the catch point. Now, those two plays, there were concepts on to beat him. He got interfered with, rubbed routes, whatever. You need to be able to fight through that a little better than he probably does. But these last two are just really bad. This one, he gets beat on a slot fade. So he's in the slot. He's right here over the slot defender. This is cover one, notably not a cover one blitz. This is straight up cover one. And so in cover one, you have a hole defender in the middle of the field. You've got a deep safety. So you play with outside leverage, especially if you're in the slot, because you have no help outside. If you're Quinyon Mitchell at the boundary of a trip set, you can justify playing more inside leverage because you got the sideline to help you. In the slot, you have nothing to the outside. And so you play with outside leverage. You know you've got help to the inside. But he is going to get beat to the outside on a slot fade, and he does it because it's just he's so concerned about this inside where he has help. Look, see the way that that jab just gets him totally beat. He's beat. And to be honest, this is a terrible job by the receiver. This should be a huge play for the Jags, but the receiver, instead of getting upfield, he's going to you should be running, trying to catch this over your shoulder. He flips his head and his shoulders and breaks to the sideline. And so the ball ends up quote unquote overthrown. This is what happens, when you're got a lot of backup receivers on the field. That should have been a big play. And then we go to the last drive. This is a cover one blitz. So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson doesn't have help, but he's here in the slot again. And I just want you to remember, again, actually, I'm just going to do it right now. Before I click play, let's go watch Cooper DeJean defend this out route again. So you've got Cooper DeJean in the slot defending an out route. And watch Cooper DeJean, outside leverage. He's right there. He breaks it up. Okay. Now hold that in your mind. And let's watch how Chauncey Gardner-Johnson plays this out route out of the slot. It's not even that good of a route. There's a subtle fake inside. He totally gets disconnected from the route, and it's not even close. Look at the separation.
He's wide open. The
difference between Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, how he defends that play, and Cooper DeJean, who's a guy who was not supposed to be a slot cornerback because he has no hip fluidity, like you mentioned. But what makes it even worse, you know who that receiver is that got that wide open at the end of the game in a key situation on him was? It's a 26-year-old practice squad wide receiver who came into the game with 6 career receptions for 42 yards.
Yeah,
now,
bad.
You mentioned against Cooper DeJean, a better receiver might make that catch. It's the same receiver. So you see them both going against that same receiver. And in Cooper DeJean's case, he maybe doesn't play it as great as you would want, the top slot corner he's a rookie. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has a background as a slot corner. He's playing terribly right now. And I think it's time to see Sidney Brown, which I'm the vice president of the Sidney Brown fan club, but Sidney Brown played 9 snaps against the Giants and he almost had a pick. He forced a fumble on special teams this week. He will miss tackles. He will get beat in man coverage, but he brings the same mentality that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson does in terms of flying downhill, talking trash, all that. He's younger, and CJGJ is just playing so bad right now. PFF grades are shaky. He's got a 52.9 right now. He has a 33.7 tackle grade. He's missing 22% of his tackle attempts. I would put Sidney Brown on the field moving forward.
Yeah, he can't tackle. He can't come downhill and tackle. And the whole point of him is that he's basically a slot corner turn safety. So you've got versatility in man coverage and he can't cover anyone. I don't know. Comment in the chat from could Sidney Brown see some time? Yes. And also about his contract. I'm pretty sure he's in a 1-year deal, isn't he? I hope he is.
I don't think it was.
Am I wrong?
3 years, $33 million.
Oh, dang. I was less worried about him because I thought we had a 1-year contract. I wonder what the out is on that. Yeah, I will be honest. Vic Fangio doesn't seem to care about your contract. 3 years, 33. Yeah, goodness, they got that. Oh, yeah, they got that wrong. 10 million guaranteed. I don't know whether they can cut him.
Cutting him. Not that we're going to do that, but if they post June 1 cut him, they would save $800,000 next year.
Right, so he could be cut. Yeah, and Fangio doesn't seem to care about your contract, by the way. Maybe it was a 1-year contract as in it could be turn into a 1-year contract. You know what these contracts are like. As long as there's an out, then it's not as big of a problem. I think it's still more likely to be a 2-year deal. Looking at the numbers that I'm looking at here. But I guess just because his cap hit's relatively low, it's not a huge contract. But yeah, he's playing bad, like really, really poor. And it's not just that as well. Oh, Bradbury at safety. I forgot about Bradbury coming in from Bread Eclipse. It's that he's bad at the thing he's meant to be good at. Like, if he's tackling, I can deal with terrible tackling to an extent if that's not the thing you're good at. But the coverage is the really, really big worry.
I don't know what he's good at.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand.
I agree.
I don't know what Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's good at this point in his right now, other than talking trash. And we got
hasn't
BG
been that good for a
good.
while. He hasn't been that good for a while. He wasn't that good with Detroit, I believe, when he was there last year. No one signed him except the Eagles, and I think they signed him based on what he did with the Eagles previously. Right, I got one more point. Then we're going as long as we've ever gone, so I need to wrap it up. I'm going to talk about quarter half, also known as cover 6. Play 9 on my film thread again, Shane. I'm only going to talk about this play because we saw it quite a few times in this game. And the reason why I wanted to show it was because I wanted to show you basically how Fangio's split safety coverages can do different things. So this looks like standard cover 4. There was a little bit of a giveaway from the Eagles, which is the position of Quinion Mitchell, because he's very, very close to the line of scrimmage. But this could easily be normal cover 4 quarters. But quarter half is very simply where you have quarter and quarter over to the passing strength, and then you play half to the other side. The reason why I really like it, and you can basically play this play, Shane, there's nothing I'm going to get too detailed about. The reason why I like it, though, is because look at Quinion Mitchell. That is a hell of a rep of press coverage. That's like really, really, really good. And that was something that we didn't see from him coming out of college. So the reason why I like quarter half is because it gives Quinion Mitchell a chance to press. And if we ever do get to a situation where we see Ringo, he would love this bit. The other thing I love, though, is look at how he gets just about enough depth to help take away the route behind him. Like, I just think he's really, really good. But I think something to look out for is if you see the Eagles in press coverage and play a split safety coverage live, you should be able to spot, but it's probably quarter half, because I spotted this live. I kept seeing Quinion Mitchell press a couple of times, and I thought, I bet I watched this back, and it's cover 6. It's just quite nice when you're watching it to know what you're looking out for. So yeah, I'll wrap it up by once again mentioning the Eagles' young defensive backs, and in general, just highlighting this was a really good defensive performance. The score did not outline how dominant this team was this week. When you watch the film, they were the best team on the field by a mile, and it's a shame the score didn't reflect that. And it's mental. It went down to the end of the game, like utterly mental, because they were significantly better than the Jags, and they've been really, really good now over the past few weeks.
All right. Well, there you guys have it. Man, you can tell when Jonny and I didn't podcast together last week because we get long, but where else are you going to hear people talk about Fangio going full tilt, and where else are you going to get all that? So we appreciate you guys all following along with us. If you're watching live, we'd really appreciate subscriptions on podcasting platforms at Eagle Pinpole Network. If you're listening on podcasting platforms, our film threads are on Twitter, so you can kind of sync it up with the plays we're talking about. We are going to be recording a Patreon mailbag later this week. I think on Friday that'll be out. So if you are not a Patreon member and you are interested, you can get a week trial. It's totally free. You can come check out my All-22 video will be there. By then, I don't have that done yet, but it'll be in there. You can check that out for free for a week. You can check out our Patreon mailbag, our Discord, see what you think. I think you'll like it, be worth sticking around. And if not, just cancel it. It's totally fine. But we appreciate you guys following along with us here. Jonny, do you have any final thoughts you need to say before we get out of here?
No, just shout out to the guys that recognize me. Still living in Cloud 9 since watching the Eagles game live. And Patreon Discord's getting good. We're getting people in there now. We're getting to know them. They're chatting to us. I don't really check Twitter messages that much these days. So if you want to chat to us, if you want to ask us questions, I'm often in there while I'm watching the film. So I'll often say when I'm watching the film. So you can literally ask me questions and I'll basically reply to them live. The Discord is good fun and it's only $3 a month. So if you do like the show, it means we can keep doing it. So please go and support us there.
Absolutely. So we will catch you guys next week. Jonny and I will talk off air about our recording stuff because next week's weird with a Sunday and then a Thursday game, but we'll get that straightened out. But we'll come back to you guys next week breaking down, hopefully, an Eagles blowout victory over the Cowboys. And who knows, maybe we'll be a little shorter that week. But till then, you guys have a good one. We'll catch you next time.